So we wanted to go through some highlights from the last year, since we were here last December, specifically talking about expanding our bridge partnership, some updates on our building cap and where we are looking forward. So if we have any time for questions at the end, we'll look forward to those. So starting with the end in mind, so last June we held our third annual knighting ceremony, our celebration of taking our midnights and moving them into Sutherland as knights. Speaker Almeda Whitus, local storyteller, came and shared incredible cultural tales and stories and legends and linked all of the stories back to our Calkins Road pillars of creative, resilient, mindful, and spirited. We had planned that out beforehand, and it was great to anchor those back, and the kids really, really enjoyed it. She was a big hit. The ceremony was a big hit. Our chorus sang a nice song with all of our 8th graders. Mr. Puma showed up and declared them officially freshmen, and it was a nice way to end our year. And then in the beginning of this year, we continued our celebration of Midnight Week and our homecoming. Dwight the Knight, our new mascot, made his debut, walking the streets on a rather sunny and warm day, the identity of which will never be revealed, or who Dwight is. We weren't able to get all of the modified sports games together again on that Friday, but we still had a great time. The kids showed up. It's part of our spirit competition between the classes. They had a good time. And cider and donuts helps too. We've had 2 visiting authors in the last year with the support of PTSA and our Cultural Arts Fund. Last year, Jordan Sonnenblick came, former English teacher, and shared his story of his inspiration behind the books. One quick example, he saw a need. He had a student whose brother was sick with cancer, and the mom had reached out to him. I'm just looking for things to help my daughter, and he couldn't find anything, so he wrote a book. And the book was actually published right around the time of the little boy's passing. But the healing piece behind that was an inspirational story that he shared with the family. And the kids really took to that. That was great. This year we had Jerry Kraft, author and illustrator. His most recent book is called New Kid. It's a graphic novel. And again, he told his story of his inspiration to where he came from. Not only did he present to the entire student body, but he then had lunch with members of our Newberry Club afterwards and got really into his inspiration behind his work, where he draws his ideas from. We have 50 copies of his novel in our library, and we cannot keep them on the shelves. The kids are just gobbling it up. It's a great, great read. I highly recommend it. The exciting thing that we're continuing to expand is growing the bridge is our partnership with Irani Gamel School in Modin, Israel. This past February, Mr. Felzoy and Mrs. Warchel took a trip over to Israel and spent 10 days there as part of the ambassadorship. A lot of things to take away. I'm speaking even though he went on the trip. Kids are kids. And the energy and the enthusiasm behind it, it's all part of that inclusivity. The more that we work with this partnership and expand it, it's really, really been exciting. You can see there in the middle picture on the slide, there's Stephanie and Mike planting a tree, which is a tradition as part of the partnership. That tree now grows in Modin, Israel. This October, with Mike's leadership and coordination and organization, we had a visit. We were part of the visit of a teacher and student delegation from Modin. We had a bunch of students and teachers come for a tour of Calkins, and they, in the beginning of their visit, and then later they came back, and I'll show you some pictures of that. And this was very exciting. These kids were around 15 years old, and they're 15 years old, and they were so excited. And that picture there is they're underneath their school banner that hangs in the Calkins Road hallways. And that's actually a picture of the kids in Modin that hangs in our school. And of course, everyone loves food. So Mike coordinated a potluck luncheon, and students at Calkins Road, about 20 students or so, brought in their favorite dishes, maybe family traditions. We had grandma's banana bread recipe for the past 80 years, and they talked about why it was important to them, and then we ate. And the kids from Israel were great. They wanted to learn more and more about the students and the food. It really was a good time. A lot of organization went into that, and a lot of fellowship came out of that. You can see the kids all together with full tummies in that one. We also have a new and exciting partnership with Alex. Alex is a physical education teacher in Modine and a soccer coach as well. Here he's bringing a poster of greeting from Israel from the students, and Stephanie's class worked with another class last year, so bringing that back. He's also extremely photogenic. Watch that picture. Here's the next picture. He's got a thing. He's got a selfie stand. But there was just an immediate connection with him as an educator, as a person. Just a wonderful feeling. The teachers you just saw his passion, his excitement. He wanted to work with kids. He taught 4 PE classes that day, the next day. He taught 4 classes. He taught them tabado, this warm-up kind of exercise, and he taught them this tic-tac-toe, running with the pennies and the hula hoops, and they were just, the kids said, I've never run so hard in PE class in my life. Of course, our PE teachers are saying, we'll talk later. But what came out of that is now a partnership with physical education. They're making tabado videos and sending them to each other. Or will be. We've gotten some. Now our kids are going to be sending them back. So he taught 4 classes. He presented twice to the 6th grade teams, and then still went out that night with the rest of the delegation. He's just got a lot of energy, and you see a lot of these partnerships growing with science, with social studies, with math, and as I said, with PE. And we're going to have a couple more people headed out there over the February break. I get to go, myself, and Mr. Daughtery Herman, to continue to grow and expand that partnership. It's just an exciting venture, and that community piece is so strong. And with that community, we also are lucky enough, I don't know if Mr. DeBell's been here yet, but you will hear more about the Shin Shinim partnership. The Shin Shinim partnership is a year of service that people apply to do to defer their mandatory military service in Israel. So these 2 18-year-olds are part of this selected program, Karen and Gilad, and they spend every other week between Thornell and Calkins Road. Going into classrooms, they've been into English class with Miss Park. Karen's an artist. She's been in with Mrs. Warchel. Gilad is a musician. He's been to Mr. Beal's general music class. We're going into world language classes to talk about that, the nonverbal communication skills across the world. And they're like little celebrities. They have this bulletin board it says ask anything, and they'll answer the question and they'll post it. They just have so much energy, and as they walk through the hallways, the kids love them. They're high-fiving them. They love our school lunches. They're really excited about the chicken bowl because they come on Thursdays, so they're very excited about that. And it's been great. Again, that community, that partnership, that inclusivity piece, just a lot of great things going with this partnership. And so continuing with the community piece, I'm going to pass it over to my esteemed colleague to talk about our CAP work.
Thanks, Josh. Good evening. It's again a privilege to be here, and I would just want to thank you again for your support of our kids. The CAP statement, if you remember from last year, this is really a 3-year goal in which we're looking at helping to build resiliency with our students. And there's a 4-pronged way we're looking at this. First of all, academically, how can we build resilience with our students? How can we help the parents support the kids at home when it comes to resilience? SEL, or social emotional learning, which again is a component in helping kids build resiliency. And finally, ACEs and being informed about certain traumas that some of our kids might come into school experiencing. And all those things we believe will help our students build resiliency. So that's just a different kind of way of looking at this. And this year we really focused in on SEL and inclusivity, and as well as the ACEs and trauma. And there's a very specific way we've done that. But before I get to that, let me just give you some examples of the work so far. And again, this is a 3-year goal. We're in year 2 of this. So the examples of the CAP work so far, our 6th grade parent orientation was completely redone so that when parents arrived for their children coming into 6th grade, there'd be a series of mini workshops they could choose to go to depending on what kind of interests they had, a lot of which, of course, revolved around building resiliency with our students. Another thing we've learned from the research here is part of building resiliency with the kids, of course, is connection they have in school as well as at home. And so we've really looked at how are our kids doing with trusted adults within the building. The way we've done that, you may have heard of the DOT project. This is something that's done in a lot of our schools, and it's something that we did at Calkins last year, where we asked students to identify, do you have a trusted adult in the building? And what we did with that is kids wrote kind of on an index card, and we actually let the adults know who those kids were. And for those who didn't identify anyone, our counselors are working with that now to see how do we connect them with more adults. And that leads into the next part here, which is community circle building and restorative justice training for our staff. One of the biggest ways schools can work to build connection, not only between the adults and the kids, but also between students to students, is through community circle. You've probably heard restorative justice talked about quite a bit over the past year. And one of the things we've learned about that is you can't really fully implement restorative justice until you have community circles as part of your building culture. And that's something we've been endeavoring to do for a year and a half now. And we've taken our time to look at it, make sure the faculty fully understands what are community circles, how will this benefit our students, and before trying to actually implement them. But once that's in place, things like restorative justice and, again, hopefully resiliency, we're going to see really rise up. So we had some workshops during the October Superintendent's Conference Day, primarily introducing staff to the concept of community circles, where they actually experienced a few community circles. And just to put that into very simple terms, there's more to it than this, but it's kids with a talking piece. The talking piece is important because it equalizes power, and that's an important thing. If you think about kids' daily routine, what they go through, pretty much kind of being told what to do every minute of the day. But in this case, there's at least an opportunity during the day where they feel some autonomy, they feel some power, and that people are listening to them. So there's a prompt that's asked, a talking piece is passed around, everybody gets a chance to share, and then the most important part of this is the connection round. The talking piece is passed around again, and students connect with one another over what they're hearing. In this case, staff got to do that, and they loved it. We had a lot of people saying, why can't we just do this every month? And it's a good question because it's a great team building type activity. And so that's what we've been talking about. So really this year, our faculty meetings have been focused on that goal, making sure the faculty totally understands, hey, in the future, we're going to ask you to lead community circles with students one time per month with topics that have been pre-selected by a committee of teachers and counselors and administration. It also puts us in a position where if we want to talk about timely issues that are going on in the community, going on in the nation, it gives us a structure to be able to do that. I was able to go to Brighton 2 weeks ago to assist with the TIG team and the tragedy they had there. And Brighton already had community circles built in. And it was amazing to watch the power of that and how Brighton was able to utilize the power of the community circles to really work with their kids and make sure they had a structured way to deal with that tragedy. And that's something, again, we're hoping we'll have a process in place for whatever should come up in the future. We've been able to send a team of counselors to Peary, Partners in Restorative Initiatives, to be trained in teaching teachers how to do the community circles. And that's something we'll be continuing to look at into year 3, where we hope to finally have our first community circles with students. All this, and one thing I've really felt strongly about since I've come here is we've been after the same sort of goal and growing that goal for the last 5 years, and that's our social emotional learning with creative, resilient, mindful, spirited, but all anchored in best work and best self. And we think that the things, including the community circles, are helping to promote that within our students, within our school culture. This is a poster that kind of summarizes that. This is our newest addition to sort of the branding that takes place when we talk about the Midnight Way. It's really interesting how this came about. We had some students on a agenda contest, the agenda cover. The students choose the artwork that's going to go on there. And one of the students came up with just some little symbols that she thought really represented the Midnight Way. And we took that and we asked some kids to work with students at Sutherland High School with Mrs. Palermo. She's an art teacher at Sutherland. And she had her kids and our kids kind of collaborate over the course of 2 years to develop this, I guess you'd call it a coat of arms that's a visual representation. And that's something you'll see around our school. So what are we doing continuing into the future? Of course, community circles are a huge piece right now that we're working on at Calkins Road. We'll be continuing to look at programs to meet this needs of our students, especially as we look at the youth risk survey data, and moving forward with our 3-year goal towards resiliency and professional learning related to building resiliency. Thank you, and this time we can answer any questions.
One thing I do want to add before there are any questions is none of this, Mike and I get to stand up here and really speak with pride as to all the work, but none of that happens without all the partnerships, the support from our central office colleagues, with the support of our amazing parent community and the PTSA, our teachers, staff, and the students have done a lot of this work. They really have, which has been just makes it even more meaningful and grounded. So any questions?
Anyone have a question? I can't thank you enough. This is amazing work that you're doing, and we love seeing everything evolve, and especially with our Modine students as well. And that relationship is really amazing. But thank you. Oh, Pete, you have a question?
Yeah,
Go
sometimes
ahead.
it takes a while to percolate. It was almost like on Thursday, Mike and I spoke at length about resiliency. So I almost feel now like I was getting kind of the advanced notice on tonight's presentation. But you talked about the TIG circle and the kids sharing and listening and the power of that. And not because there was someone at the center of the circle or at the front of the room guiding them, but it was they kind of communicating and sharing, with respect and care. So I want to thank you for sharing again tonight with everyone here. Thanks, Mike.
And Josh and Mike, I want to also chime in and echo the fact that getting students to talk, especially at the middle school level, is tough. Well, for some. Others, it's pretty easy. But to get them to talk as a community is important. And sometimes when I'm there and watching kids and or seeing circles, I see a lot of things that we could benefit from if we were able to do it as adults as well. They do a great job sitting and talking and working through problems, and under your facilitation that's happening, so thank you.
Well, it's hard work and it's great work. The kids make it all worth it. Thank you.
I was just going to make a quick comment how much I appreciated in the Commons area where you have all the flags up from all the different countries. That was spectacular. Really enjoyed that.
We just ordered 2 more.
Wow.
Yep.
Thanks, Josh and Mike. We
Thank you very
appreciate it.
much.